I am Harrison Whitney, and here with another piece of the jigsaw puzzle based on COVID 19. In 1992, at Wayne State University, I did a doctoral dissertation in Einstein's 10 unit metric tensor gravitational field equations. Now, those equations are actually based in what's referred to as deductive logic. And how deductive logic works is 346 years before the birth of Christ or before the Common Era, uh, Aristotle actually invents deductive logic with 6 steps. Uh, Make a clear statement about what you attempt to accomplish. Gather all the facts and data. Categorize the facts and data. Formulate an hypothesis, a credible hypothesis. Make a deduction from the hypothesis. Publish it, whether it's correct or incorrect. Well, first of all, you have to test it before you publish it. And of course, my work was eventually published. But be that as it may, let me skip down to explain exactly, give you an example of deductive logic. It goes from the general to the particular. I'm going to generalize, and the classic example in Dr. Patrick Hurley's textbook, edition 6 that I utilize for my courses, all men are mortal. Socrates is a man. Therefore, Socrates is mortal. Now, that's an absolute certainty. If all men are mortal, if Socrates is a man, then Socrates is immortal. That's an absolute certainty. But approximately 2,000 years later, here comes a good friend of King James, in around 1619, Sir Francis Bacon introduces inductive logic, which goes from not the general to the particular, but it starts with the particular and goes to the general. Example, 90% of all sailors in the U.S. Navy can swim. But the reciprocal of the swimmers, 90%, is 10% cannot swim. So there's nothing exact about inductive logic and its probability. Now, Einstein's nightmare is referred to as quantum mechanics. Quantum mechanics involves what's called Dr. Peter Higgs' boson quantum gravity field. And my little cracker barrel hypothesis on this particular virus, COVID-19, oscillates betwixt a quantum gravitational field, boson Higgs field, conversely re-enters Einstein's gravitational field, does its injecting, and actually retreats back into the quantum field of gravity of the boson Higgs field, picks up more energy, packs it, which is a huge amount of energy, and oscillates between both fields. The quantum field, which is Einstein's nightmare, which is converse to Einstein's 10-unit metric gravitational field equations. Now, be this as it may, you're looking at what's called the chlor hydro how to pronounce it hydro looking at the hydro chlorquinine chemical equation C18H26CIN 30.H2S04. This is perhaps a remarkable method of actually going ahead of the curve, as the greatest proponent of this is President Trump. Probably about 50% of the physicians, epidemiologists agree with it, and 50% will say if it's not clearly tested, it doesn't meet the strict criteria that's set forth by the CDC nor the WHO, the World Health Organization. But be that as it may, just simplified, this particular virus, COVID-19, oscillates between a quantum field, a gravitational quantum field, and Einstein's 10-unit metric tensor gravitational field in order to inject. Now that's just off the cuff, my little peanut hypothesis, and I think though it's not, there's no sound proof for it, it's at least plausible, and it's at least plausible as this chemical formula for hydrochloroquine. Anyway, I give lectures on this. I can simplify it even further to let you get an understanding what Einstein's gravitational field equations are, and a bit about what hasn't been worked out, or is the mathematics or the equation for gravity in a quantum field and how it operates. But even though we can get a better or clearer understanding of how this virus has to be working in order to accomplish what it has already accomplished. My name's Harrison Whitney. I'm a wannabe philosopher scientist. I have a pretty solid background. I have letters, recommendations, and the fact that I do know how to build a scientific hypothesis from Emeritus Professor Patrick J. Hurley at the University of San Diego, who's now working in conjunction with department chair at the University of San Diego, a private Jesuit school, Laurie Watson, and they're working on now what's called the 14th edition of how deductive logic in combination with inductive logic, how it works. So my name's Harrison Whitney, and I can be contacted area code 248-818-3461. Thanks for listening.